Welcome everyone to the City of Subiaco's annual Electors meeting for 2024. I declare the meeting open at 5:36 p.m. I'd like to welcome all of you here this evening, and on behalf of the City of Subiaco, I acknowledge we're meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people, and I recognise their ongoing connection to the land and waterways of Subiaco. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the contents of the annual report and the audited financial statements for 2023 and 2024. We'll also take questions from the floor and discuss any other general business arising. I will take attendances now because I'm pleased to be joined by several City of Subiaco councillors. Welcome Councillor Gary Kosovich, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Russell Jones and Councillor Penny O'Connor. We've got an apology from Councillor Rick Powell, and Councillor Rosemary De Vries is on a leave of absence. Okay, well, because I've got an audience this evening, I'll take the opportunity to make a quick announcement because it's been a good year for the City of Subiaco. Our main task tonight is to present the annual report and financial statements. And if you look at the financials, it tells a story of prudent financial management, mixing rates with a range of other revenue sources. So much so that 2023 to 2024 continues a pattern of some of the lowest rate rises in Perth. Having said that, good things do cost money, and low rate rises are not much use if local government's not delivering for their community. So do take the opportunity to look through this booklet, look through the report, because at a time when so much is happening, it is easy to sometimes lose track of all the good things that are happening in the City of Subiaco, and there are a lot of good things. But this does bring me to the most important point of all, and that is we know that our community is as satisfied as ever, and that is why we do what we do. None of this happens by accident or chance, so I'd like to thank councillors and staff for each doing your bits, with each part working as it should. I think we can say it's been a good 2023, 2024, and we can probably look forward to an even better 2024, 2025 to come. So thank you, everyone. Okay, so the business of the evening. The annual report and financial statements, which includes the Mayor's report, the CEO's report and the Auditor's report, are submitted for consideration. I will be looking for a mover and a seconder to receive the annual report and the audited financial statements. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Peter McDonald, thank you, and Mark Tonti. Same combo as last year. Okay. Okay, we'll vote by a show of hands this evening. We've got the mover and the seconder, so I'll put that to the vote now. All those in favour? Okay, we'll say that's carried. We'll say it's carried simply because the general practice is that councillors don't usually vote at these things, but we'll say it's carried well and truly. Okay, so we've got some motions that were submitted prior to the meeting as well, but okay, we'll deal with that after public question time. So, public questions may be asked by electors of the City and must relate to matters that affect the City of Subiaco, so please limit your questions to 2 per person. Those who submitted questions prior to the meeting will be given preference in determining the order of speakers, and we've received a submission from one elector, Mr Daniel Gouvignon of Coglan Road, Subiaco. Mr Gouvignon, if you'd like to read your 2 questions, we'll see if we can give you an answer.
Thank you. Daniel Gouvignon from 77 Conklin Road in Subiaco. First question is, has the council performed a penetration test regarding the security of the digital permit platform?
I'll ask Director Technical Services to answer that. Mr Hambley.
There we go. So thank you for your question. So in response to it, so the digital permits are provided by a third party. This third party is responsible for ensuring the security of the platform. The system regularly undergoes penetration testing by an independent security experts as part of the third party provider's continuous security program. The third party provider complies with all applicable laws, regulations, and industry standards regarding data privacy, security, and protection.
Thanks, Mr. Hambley. Mr. Gouvignon will take your second question now.
Can the council provide insight into its case resolution process to resolve matters within a reasonable time period regarding damage to sidewalks?
Another one for Director of Technical Services. Mr. Hambley, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll keep it fairly short and high level. So footpath maintenance requests are received through the city's Customer Relationship Management System, CRM. These cases are regularly monitored and triaged throughout the day by staff. Where an incident is reported, such as a trip or fall or a high risk, these cases are prioritized and made safe or repaired as soon as possible.
Thank you. I'll take questions from the floor now. I think Mark Tonti of Salisbury Street is going to take the stand.
There's three areas that I want to actually cover in these questions, and I'm not looking for an answer tonight for the third one, but the first and the second may or may not be. The first one relates to the men's shed and what we may or may not be doing to get some equity for women in that space. I mean, our males in Subiaco have a beautiful, fully equipped men's shed, which is used for a number of purposes, and one of those is actually just getting people together so that they can sort out their differences or whatever. Women don't have that. And I know that there's a movement by women to try and get some space from Subiaco, and I know that they've approached the council looking for a home. So my question is, what action is council taking to sort out this equity issue? So I'm not looking for an answer tonight. I think it's something maybe you want to take on notice and follow through, I'm not sure.
Thanks, Mr. Tonti. Anytime we have discussions about giving space over to community groups, it is a multi-pronged discussion with lots of considerations to take into account. So to answer your question about whether we will find a space for the women's shed, we will need to take that on notice because they're one of several groups lining up for space. Another one that comes to mind is the artistic community who 3 years ago we set a process in motion for to set up an arts hub for. The comment around equity is interesting because the thing about the Men's Shed movement, which I know a bit about having been a former board member on Men's Shed WA, is that men's sheds have arisen to fill a gap that existed for men in the community. Men have traditionally lacked opportunities to get together, to have discussions and to do things which are very important for men's mental health. So the City of Subiaco is a big supporter of our local Men's Shed, as am I personally. And I think it's a real credit to that group that they have organised themselves and have governed themselves in a way that has seen that shed become so successful and such an integral part of our community. For those who aren't familiar with the Men's Shed, I'd encourage you to also have a look at the video which the City of Subiaco put out recently, where we took the chance to sit down and have some discussions with the men in that group, because it really is a worthwhile thing that they are doing there. So it's no wonder that there may be women in the community who'd like to replicate that with the Women's Shed, but I think the answer for tonight's purposes is that finding space for them will be a moving feast. But like all these things, we're listening to the community and working with the resources we've got, but we'll keep you updated. No, I think that's all right. The second question?
You started to touch on my second question when you talked about art, and I know I've raised this issue with you and not all that long ago. The street art, the painting of the buildings is absolutely fantastic. There's no question of that. When you move around the city and you see that, it helps the city heaps. I took the opportunity to talk to some of those artists who were actually doing some of that work, and I asked them the question, why aren't you doing something that's Subiaco flavoured, like some people or some actions that have happened in Subiaco, and there are lots of people who lived in this city of ours who have done some great things. And there's also our Indigenous people. There's parts of Subiaco which were really important to our Indigenous population in years gone by. So I guess my question is, what action is Council taking to include the history of people and places in future street art?
Thanks for the question. In my haste in answering the first question, I did forget that if we just go back to the Women's Shed for a minute, the City of Subiaco has actually sponsored the current Women's Shed movement. So thank you, CEO, for reminding me of that. So they may not have a home, and I understand that they're operating on a pop-up basis at the moment, but the city is providing financial assistance while they remain mobile. As for the question about what we're doing in relation to street art, I think that's probably answered by someone other than myself, but perhaps if I can just comment on what I think prompted the question, which was the highly successful No More Blank Walls Festival. The way that those artworks came about was through the curation of the group No More Blank Walls, who are an international outfit who have their networks of established artists and who exercise a degree of creative control that would be difficult to interfere with. So we've delivered some highly popular murals as a result of that festival. But as for the opportunities for Subiaco-themed art, the latest updates, because I know that we have had some discussions about this, are probably best answered, if not by the CEO, then by one of his staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thanks very much. So we cover this in quite a few things in terms of capturing and restoring the information and presenting it. So we have produced a 2024 book for Subiaco Art, which talks to all the artists, including a number of Aboriginal artists that have been involved in the Biddy Trail and a range of installations and artworks that we've done. That also provided context and history for the various pieces of art that have been installed in Subi, particularly in the last 10 years. In addition to that, we've run a series of stories on Facebook about the artists that have actually installed pieces. The No Blank Walls that you're referring to came about through a procurement process where we put out to have some art done on these walls, and they were certainly the best suggestion to us in terms of what we should actually do, and they turned it into a festival. They had a pop-up store in Rockaby Road, and in addition to that, every new piece of public realm, we include public art. So if you were to look at, and you went to, I'm pretty sure you're at the Postal Walk opening, so the gate that covers up the post office, there's a range of other pieces of art within that public realm improvement. And if you also, I think you may well have gone to the Forest Walk, you will have note the bench structures having art incorporated them, which included Aboriginal artists working in terms of that earth, fire, and there was one other theme that I remember. So we are doing a lot to increase art awareness in terms of the artists themselves and promoting them. And in addition to that, we've not only done physical publications, but a number of videos and social media stories run to promote the artists themselves. And we definitely include Aboriginal art, and a young up-and-coming artist, Aboriginal artist, was as part of our first rap as well. So she provided the artwork for that, and will be involved in many more projects. So it's certainly, as we require people that build in the city of Subiaco to contribute a percentage for art, we certainly do more than that each year in all of the projects that we do.
And your third question, Mr. Tonti.
Thank you, and that's I appreciate that response, but it would be nice to see a greater focus on it. That would have been nice through the Blank Wall project. Anyway, that's we move forward, and it's all about what we learn as we go. My third question is probably a bit touchy because it involves the Civic and Administration Centre that the council is looking at. The footprint and the proposed uses, including the fit out, suggest to some of us that the cost of this project is about double what you've currently got allocated in the budget. Now, I don't have a problem with a civic and administration centre. We've got to do something, and the building we've currently got may be past its use by date. Who knows? So it's a bit of a cost thing that concerns me. So I have a couple of questions. The first question is, will an independent cost benefit be undertaken, and will that project be benchmarked against such centres currently in the western suburbs? That's my first question. And my second question is, given the cost of it, has the council considered other options to providing a civic services and housing of its employees? Because you could decentralise. There are issues like that. So I'm not being negative about this. I think what we do need to do is to ensure that the public move with the council and move with the times, because we do need some sort of civic centre of some description. It's how it's provided in this market. And let's face it, we're living in very difficult times where people can't put food on the table. For us to be spending that sort of money, we need to ensure that we've got the community with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Tonti. I'm not sure that it's particularly touchy. It's understandable that the community would be interested in things like this. Maybe I'll answer your first question first. Have we considered other options? Yeah, look, of course we have. We've considered a range of things and a number of workshops over 2 years since the fire happened, and it's taken as long as it has to get to the point where we're ready now to be undertaking an EOI process. So I don't think any option's been left off the table. As to the first question about benchmarking, there is a rigorous process by which architects will be submitted, shortlisted and selected, and the project will be held to the highest levels of integrity as it progresses. To the extent you would possibly like a little bit more detail, I'm mindful that that the process is only just getting underway, but between the CEO or Director Corporate Services, they might want to fill in a few gaps this evening about whether we'll be benchmarking the cost of the build. CEO.
Yes, thank you for that. Absolutely, as the Mayor said, we've gone through a number of scenarios already, looked at possible locations, including, say, staying here on an extended lease and those sorts of options. So we'll look at all of them. The final scope is yet to be determined by Council. At the moment, we're going through a procurement process to choose the best architects, and that will assist the Council to determine the size and scope. In addition to that, we also, as you may or may not know, are looking to secure some land at Mount Claremont in terms of for our large trucks. So there's that being considered as well, and hopefully we'll in the new year have more information in relation to a fully fledged depot that can handle our waste trucks, etc. So there are a few things that we're looking at, but one of the most important things that we're looking at in terms of the cost is not just the capital cost. So we look at the total cost of ownership, which includes the operating costs for every year, and how long a building will last if it's well designed, and how long is it fit for purpose in terms of what the material. So a good example of that would be most of the buildings built by the city are in that vintage of about 1967 and 1973. And we have a brilliant example in terms of the library, very well made, very well designed. It's just how to fit out and go for another 50 years plus. The admin council chamber building is not the same, and it never was, even if it didn't have the fire, and probably was not fit for purpose after about 25 years. and we have a few other buildings in that as well. So when we consider it, we do whole of life costing, total cost of ownership. We'll bench that, mark that against, say, leasing space. We look at decentralised models. We look at who needs to be at the depot and who needs to be together, and how that provides a good customer service. And in addition to that, we look at the whole of life costing in terms of, and stacking that up, and that will form part of what the final scope is, and that'll be ultimately council's decision. But at the moment, a budget hasn't been set in terms of council determining what a budget is. So select the architects first, work with them, determine the scope, and consider that in relation to the other buildings, such as a depot, and then the other buildings that we also have to fix. So we have good reserves, but we need to manage those carefully in terms of all the things that we need to improve on, including we'll soon embark on the Shenton Park Community Centre upgrade as well. So there's a lot of things that we're working through. I'm not sure, Emma, if there's anything else you think I should have added? Okay. But yes, we definitely will benchmark it. We'll definitely consider the options as to where staff, and ultimately be a council decision once they have an architect assisting them with that. But the idea is to have good materials, last a long time, and be fit for purpose for a long time. And therefore that will significantly reduce the total cost of ownership, will reduce how much the impact on annual rates is. That's definitely a focus.
Maybe just press the microphone.
My follow-up to that would be that's great, and don't argue against any of that. But to get some assurity, I've used the word independent review in that question. So is it likely that you'll use an independent review to check what's been put forward? Okay.
Yes, I forgot. Absolutely. So a couple of things. We already have a range of independents, but at the moment, so through the procurement process for selecting of the architects, we have a probity auditor. So they're there to make sure that the process is done in accordance with the way in which we've outlined it, so everybody's treated fairly, because it's a two-stage process. In addition to that, we do have a range of external expertise that we do, and we quite often seek verification from others as well. It's a standard of practice in all the things that we do, particularly something of a community building that we would hope, most people hope for 50 years. We'd certainly hope that if we do it properly, it'll last beyond 100.
Peter McDonald, Onslow Road.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a question about the commercial health and vibrancy of our central business precinct. I'm talking particularly about Rockaby Road from Roberts down to the station, and everyone's been admiring the level of activity and vibrancy that's come with the various activities the council's done. And in recent discussions with some of the other local business owners, there's been a surprising range of views on how the vibrancy is travelling, from celebration to despair. And it raised in my mind the question of whether the city's measuring what's happening as these green shoots appear and flourish. We have seen in the past statistics on commercial vacancy rates, which are published across the city of Perth. And I know the council's got some recent expertise in the form of Councillor White, who's got economic credentials in this area. And I'm just wondering, traditional measures are things like footfall statistics. Is the city monitoring the level of activity that we're seeing, and in particular differences in activity from, say, the precinct, which is the corner of Hay and Rockaby, versus the precinct up near, Robertson, Rockaby. So my question is, what objective, what evidence have we got to inform this debate that's going on within the business community in that immediate precinct?
Just to clarify the question, I think you said that the precinct from Roberts Road to the railway. Did you mean from a different road to Roberts Road? Because that's
sorry, you're right. I meant from the library down to the railway.
It's a far bigger precinct.
So yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, look, perhaps I'll talk about some of the I know you've asked about statistics, and we do have reports on that, but let me share with you two things which our staff have put together in recent times. The first was a Main Street forum that was attended by landlords and leasing agents who have a presence in Subiaco, and at that report we heard some of the latest vacancy data and had a discussion about the challenges and opportunities of doing business in the commercial parts of City of Subiaco. So we're having those types of conversations. More recently, we put together a working lunch amongst people from the creative industries in Subiaco. So they're people with offices based predominantly off Rockaby Road, but other parts of the city centre as well in the creative industries. And again, they were talking about why they're doing business, how they're doing business, and the challenges and opportunities that they see. And at that event, we also heard from a separate agency who presented to us some of the data and some of the trends about doing business in Subiaco. So we're certainly collecting the data in an even more structured process. We're in the process of drafting and I suppose finalising and approving at some point an economic development strategy for the city, which has been assisted by further consultants. So there's certainly data both internally and externally. And I can see the CEO looking through his laptop, and he's probably got the reports I just mentioned closer to hand than I do. But yeah, look, CEO, in terms of data that we're capturing and all that type of thing, how can we answer the question this evening?
Yeah, thanks very much. So one of the things which, with each of the sort of festival type things that we do, or Subi Blooms, for example, or the No Blank Walls that was just talked about earlier, each of those types of things, or even say the night markets, Saturday night markets, most of those we've contracted to perform, or some of the beer and wine trails, chocolate trails, etc. So we get a lot of data back and a report based on whether that's in the attendees, for example, so we know that. We did some work on the foot traffic and tried some technology relating to the installation of Billy Bob. So we sort of got a sense of the Mandurah Giant that's in Subi and the impact that that's had. So we have trialled different technologies to give us a sense of how many people are attending those big events. But in addition, as the Mayor pointed out, we do an updated survey. I think we do it every 2 years, Alex might nod or not nod, in terms of vacancy rates. And also it looks at in terms of the length of vacancy, the type of vacancy, and gives us a lot of indications in terms of that. I think you're right, there's a bit of a two-speed economy going on. Some businesses are doing really well. There's new businesses opening up. There's quite a lot of investment going on, which gives us hope. But we do have various bits of data. We don't always publish all of it because it's quite specific to campaigns. We certainly, as part of the economic development strategy as well, will look to what other indicators we could probably publish to assist the community know, other than obviously we have the economic ID information on the city's website as well. So is that probably it? Yeah.
Thank you. And look, maybe if I can just finish by saying data's great, but I think the way you get your most intel is by talking to people. And I've attended events that the City of Subiaco has hosted on behalf of the Economic Development Australia Limited. I missed the recent Chamber of Commerce event, but we hosted one of those as well. We invite local businesses to all the events that the City of Subiaco hosts, such as the recent launch of Forest Walk, and we're signed on as as the sole principal local government sponsor of the WSBA for another 5 years. So there's regularly City of Subiaco councillors at those events as well. So data's great, but we're having conversations to supplement the data as well. So if there's businesses out there who aren't having their voices heard, then we'll have to make sure that no one's falling through the cracks. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, well, there's an opportunity now to raise motions. Motions need to be moved, seconded and voted on, and just a note that decisions made at electors meetings will be considered by council at the next ordinary council meeting, but they have no effect as such. We've got 5 motions that have been submitted prior to the meeting from Daniel Gouvignon of Coghlan Road, Subiaco. Did you want to read them out yourself, or did you want me to? I'm happy either way. Yeah, okay. Thanks for sending them through ahead of time. Okay, we'll do them one by one and look for a mover and a seconder and put each one to the vote one at a time. So your first motion was that the council develops a revision of the local laws relating to parking in a timely manner to align with digital e-permits, given that residents holding digital residential permits may be in violation of section 6.52C. Do I have a seconder for Mr. Gouvignon's first motion? Okay, the motion lapses. Motion 2, that the council investigates the digital permit platform's user experience and user interface in order to facilitate better adoption and ease of use for all. Mr. Gouvignon will move. Do we have a seconder for the second motion? Seconded by Peter McDonald, thank you. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Just by a show of hands. Okay, we've got 2 votes for. Those against? And 1 against. Okay, it looks like the second motion's carried. The third motion submitted by Mr. Gouvignon, that the council approves a report to validate the security of the digital permit platform. Again, I assume we've got a mover in Mr. Gouvignon. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay, it looks like motion 3 lapses for want of a seconder. Moving on to motion 4, that the council investigates a mechanism to allow electors to verify permit holders via So I'll start that again. That the council investigates a mechanism to allow electors to verify permit holders via vehicle registration numbers to assist in the reporting of potential parking abuse. Do I have a seconder for Mr. Gouvignon's motion 4? Okay, that'll lapse for want of a seconder as well. And the final motion. I don't think. Well, I mean, the motion is what it is. I think we'll see if we've got any support for it. The discussion that was happening with microphones off was because Collins Street is located in West Perth, so there's not really much we can do about that. Coghlan, the one you live in? Yes. That makes more sense. Okay, well, we'll take the motion as follows. That council investigates the safety of the intersection at Coghlan Road and Hay Street, given the number of incidents that have occurred, particularly given the number of students that use this intersection travelling to Bob Hawke College. We have Mr. Gouvignon move. Do we have a seconder? Mr. McDonald, thank you. And I'll put that to a vote by a show of hands. All those in favour of the motion? All those against? Okay, we've got 2 votes for, 2 votes against.
Not carried. Sorry, I thought you said 2-1.
Yeah, no, it's 2. There was a late vote against. If it was a council meeting, I'd use a casting vote, but I'm not voting tonight. Therefore, there isn't majority support for that motion, so the motion therefore fails. Are there any other motions from the floor? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for those 5. There's no further business, so I'll declare the City of Subiaco's annual electors meeting for the 2024 closed at 6:12 p.m. Thank you everyone for attending and for the questions and the motions, and please feel free to stay back for some refreshments. Thanks everyone.